Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Center for Spiritual Living Victoria. My name is Carrie Hunter, and I'm the spiritual director at the center. And this is being recorded on Sunday evening around 6 o'clock after our service this morning. And I've just come back from the most amazing performance by the Victoria Symphony. And I'm just kind of all revved up with music right now. Would love to be playing some of it for you. Anyway, welcome. It's lovely to have you here. And my topic today is assignment from God. So what does that really mean? Or what was I thinking? I think that from time to time, I wake up in the morning with a grand idea. And, it may be something that is super challenging. It may be something that is sweet. It may be something that I could just do in 10 or 15 minutes. But typically it's something that is more of a challenge. And sometimes I find myself saying, but I've got my day all planned. I know what I'm going to do today. My day timer is full. I have meetings. I have all kinds of things that I need to accomplish today. So I can't really do that. And that's my ego mind speaking, because I know better than that. And as I think about it, I wonder if sometimes these early morning thoughts, upon awakening, I wonder if they're perhaps assignments from God. If it's a message like, this is really what you're to do today. Never mind what your plans are all about. And it might even be something where I just want to goof off, as we used to say in school, where I don't want to do anything. But when I listen, when I just go into the silence and listen, I'm given the directions about what to do. I'm given divine guidance. And I know that this works, except that my ego mind gets in the way. And the thing is, as Dr. Ernest Holmes, our founder, teaches, or as he taught in his books, we don't need to know how to do things. We just need to know the what. And when we know the what, if we get out of the way, divine guidance, God is going to help us the rest of the way, is going to take us through it. But how often are we willing to just surrender, to absolutely let a higher power take charge? I think that it's something that we really, really need to look at. And I was reminded of a number of years ago now, when I was a fledgling minister. I used to get invited to Bellingham, just across the Canada-US border. There's a Center for Spiritual Living there. I think it was called Center for Positive Living at the time. And I used to get invited to come and speak sometimes. It was a wonderful congregation, and in the summertime, we had services outside and had all of the electrical outlets that we needed for music and for the choir and so on. It was really a wonderful experience. The first time that I went down, I was staying at the home of the minister who was minister of the church, and she was away, so I basically was just at her home for the weekend. Sunday morning, I got up and walked into the kitchen and went to the refrigerator, and there was a big sign on the refrigerator, and it said, "Good morning, this is God. I'm in charge here today, and I don't need any help from you." And I just belly laughed. And I thought, and as this thought came to me again, as this memory came to me again yesterday, I thought, yeah, that's really what it's about, isn't it? There's a higher power in charge and doesn't need help from us. We simply need to believe. We need to examine our belief systems. And the thing is, what we forget sometimes is that we were born with God installed. This power lives within us. It's in everyone, it's in everything, everywhere. We cannot get away from it, no matter how much we might forget about it. It never, ever leaves us. And so when I think about this, when I think about what that's all about, it is all about this amazing power within. But it's also about love, because that's really what the power is. When we are using it for the greatest good of all humanity, for the greatest good of our planet, for our own greatest good, it's all about love. And we're born in love, and our journey here is a journey of love. And at the end of our lives, we just go back into love again, into pure love. I have a couple of good friends, one who's fairly young and the other one who's older. Both of them have had near-death experiences. And the one thing that each of them said to me was, when that happened to them, they were in a place of sublime love. It was a love that was so profound they could in no way adequately describe it. And they didn't want to come back. And they said they would never again fear death because they knew what was on the other side. They knew this phenomenal love. And they said it's just something you want to cling to. You don't ever want to let it go. And also, each of them was given a message about why they had to come back, what was theirs to do. They were given their divine assignments. It's a tough way to get them. I think that for most of us, if we spend time in meditation and prayer, if we listen, I always say meditation is listening to God. Prayer is speaking to God. So if we spend more time in meditation, we start to get some inclination of what it is that is ours to do. And as I say, I sometimes wake up in the morning with it right there in front of me. And then what I really need to do is just say yes, and allow that to take place. Now, it doesn't necessarily just happen in the morning. We can have these aha moments at any time during the day, But basically, what we need to remember all along the way is to realize that we're coming from a place where love lives. And are we behaving in a loving way? If there's always someone who pushes our buttons, upsets us along the way, and we want to hang on to that upset, we feel justified with it. What we're really doing is just damaging ourselves. We're not doing any good for ourselves at all. And what we really need to be doing is to giving them love. And that means like polishing it up inside us, because maybe it's got just a little bit dull. Maybe we've forgotten about it. Maybe we've pushed it to the back. And so as we polish it up, the biblical words come to me, Father, forgive them, they know not what they do. If we can basically look at people who do push our buttons, who do upset us in some way, and say, they know not what they do, forgive them. I forgive them. I forgive myself sometimes. I don't know what I'm doing. There are times. And so we really, really need to get in touch with our inner selves, with this light within. And so I'd like everybody to consider that perhaps it's time to reinstall love. Isn't that a novel idea? Just like we would reinstall a program on our computers if we needed to do that. It just takes kind of a cleaning up of things. And as I was thinking about this yesterday, and thinking about things that come along to us, there are things that come to us through a lot of struggle, a lot of heartache. And this morning I was referencing a wonderful young woman who recently passed with cancer. And she had been watching me online, and she called me and asked me if I would come and sit with her and pray with her. And so of course I did. She said she only had a few days left. And I noticed that on her bed, on top of the quilt, was a copy of A New Design for Living by Ernest Holmes, our founder. And it was turned over. She'd been reading it before I came in. And I noticed it. And she also could quote it. It was amazing. She had really absorbed a lot of what she had read in the number of pages she had read. And I mentioned that to her. And she said, well, you spoke about that book for a month. And she said, I really paid attention and I wanted to read it. And she said, when I got cancer again, because this, I think, was the fourth time, she said, I just thought that it would go away. I thought I could get rid of it through, medical treatment, whatever. And she said, what happened was so many people started giving me ideas about what I could do to get rid of it. And she said, I started a protocol where I actually started to get better. I was really feeling feeling, so much better, and the tumor was a lot smaller. She said I was really on track with it. And then she said other people were giving me other ideas, and I thought, well, maybe I should try those. And so she said she started trying all of them. And she said then her health started to deteriorate to the point that it was the day that I was with her, when she was very fragile, very frail, just a tiny little thing compared with how she used to look. And she asked me if I would go and speak with her husband. And I said, well, of course I will. And she said, I've always wanted to live a spiritual life. This is really important to me. But she said, I was afraid to, because I was afraid that my husband wouldn't love me anymore. Because he's not a spiritual person. He's not a religious person. And I just thought that was too big a risk to take. And she said, I need him to know that. Anyway, I went and met with her husband for a while, and we talked. We talked about his wife's end of life that was coming very soon. And he knew it, and he was making all kinds of preparations. And he asked me if I would do her celebration of life service. And I said, well, of course I will. But he didn't want to do it right away. He wanted to wait a couple of months so it could feel more like a celebration and not be so filled with sorrow. And then I told him what his wife said to me, that, she had been called to a spiritual life for a long time, but she was so worried that if she embraced it, that he wouldn't love her anymore. And she wanted him to know that. And he quoted Shakespeare. He smiled, and he said actually that this was read at their wedding. And he said, love does not alter when alteration finds. He said, how could I ever not love her? She's the love of my life. And he had me read that at her celebration of life, and he was sobbing through it. And I thought, we sometimes deny ourselves the greatest love, the greatest light there can be, because we have some false belief about what it might do to us, about what it could do. I went through that many, many, many years ago when I was married. I was just really on a spiritual path, and it did upset my husband. And whenever I would make a decision that I was not going to pursue it again, he would come home with a book for me that was a spiritual book, and he would say, I saw this and I just thought you might enjoy it. He had no idea what they were about. And it was just such an amazing revelation to me that he was being guided to buy these books for me that would take me into a deeper, deeper spiritual place, even though he didn't have any spiritual beliefs himself. But he didn't feel so kindly about my being involved in spiritual pursuits. Anyway, that's kind of a long way into the idea that sometimes we come to this place through suffering and hardship. And sometimes something comes to us for a short time, just kind of in a flash. And as I thought about that, I was thinking about what's been in the news this past week about the Venezuelan people who were put on planes. The governor of Florida ensured that they were put on planes, and they were told that they were being sent to Boston. And when they got to Boston, they would have homes, they would have clothing, they would have food, they would have jobs, they would have money, all of these amazing promises. And some of them were about to get their immigration papers. They were about to go to court hearings in Florida or in Texas. And anyway, they got on the plane because they just thought everything was wonderful, these promises by the governor of Florida. Well, they weren't going to Boston. The plane landed in Martha's Vineyard, which is an island, and the only way you can get there is by boat or by plane. And some of the people were ill. They needed medical attention, and they got off the plane. They didn't know what they were going to do. They were just abandoned there. And Martha's Vineyard is basically known for being a fairly wealthy area, and many more people there in the summer than in the winter months. But nonetheless, a busy island. And what happened was, as soon as the people of the island heard and it's not a big population. As soon as they heard what had happened, they were out there with food, with clothing, with medical supplies. They set up a place in the local church where people could sleep. They did everything that they could to help them. The entire Martha's Vineyard came together to help these people and to help comfort them. And they've now been moved to the Cape Cod military base where they're being taken care of, and they're getting medical treatment. They're truly getting the help that they need. But it was such a terrible thing that was done to them. And yet these kinds of things bring out the best in people. And I was thinking about 9/11, when planes couldn't land in the US for a few days. And 38 planes landed at Gander, Newfoundland. And so the people of 7,000 people were on those planes. And the people of Gander just rose to the occasion. They fed 7,000 people every day. They gave them clothing if they needed it, if they couldn't get what they had off the planes. They entertained them. Only in Newfoundland would would the people say, well, okay, we can feed them and clothe them, we can house them, but we got to entertain them as well. That joyfulness. And those 7,000 people couldn't stop talking about the hospitality that they had in Gander. And it was 4 days before they could leave Newfoundland. And of course, since then, there's been an amazing Broadway musical that has been written called Come From Afar. And it's that story, and it raises people up. The best in the people in Newfoundland or in Gander came out to help those people, and the inspiration from them, the inspiration to them rather, they carried off with them. It changed their lives in so many ways. And this musical is changing people's lives. It reminds us that we're here on divine assignment, and that every once in a while something comes up where a higher power says to us, right here, right now, this is the time, you are the person, or you are the people, and we rise up. I just want to throw myself into the presence of people like this. I want to be awestruck by the good that is being done on this earth, not by the horrors. We're not here by accident. We are here by divine order, here today, watching this. And we're here in this lifetime by divine order, on divine assignment from God. It's time that we get out of our cocoons and allow ourselves to become beautiful butterflies. As Ernest Holmes said, we have to give God permission to co-create with us, not to give away our power. It's an easy thing for us to do, to just, give it to somebody else. Every day, in so many ways, we are being called. We're being called to do so many special things. And all we have to do is say yes. A great big yes to God. That's really what it's all about. And I just invite you to maybe close your eyes for a couple of minutes, and I'm going to do a meditation that I'm going to read to you, because it's something that I have had for a number of years and that I really, really love. So just, take a breath and relax and just listen to these words. This idea of uncovering starts with our connection with the divine. It starts with a quest, an ancient quest for personal truth. Wherever we are at the moment doesn't matter. History doesn't matter. Where we grew up, how we grew up, doesn't matter. What matters is that there is that inside us that is willing to say yes to uncovering the voice that Dr. Holmes calls the voice celestial, spirit within us, love within us, love as us. Consider where you are right now, your paths, your stories, your personalities, the events and circumstances that we may never comprehend. But none of that dilutes or erases the fact that we're all joined. We're all joined together by this divine power that is in everyone and everything. Right here and right now, let us all have an identity crisis and let it be stripped away. Like the phoenix rising from the ashes, let us know our greatness. In this divine moment, it isn't about knowing how or manipulating anything or overthinking it. It is simply about saying yes, the sacred yes to spirit, to what calls us. Today, let us uncover that pure place within us, that innocence and love, and have the knowledge and wisdom to own it, to breathe it, to live it. Let us all be reminded of our truth and how we are joined together as one, like the drops in the ocean, the rocks part of the mountain. We are all part of the body of God. This affects our choices, our voices, and creates a ripple effect out into the world. Let us just drop down into love, into that place where God resides inside each of us. And the world will be a better place. And so it is. Thanks for being here today. It's wonderful to see you. And if you ever want to drop in to see us in person, we're in the Cook Street Village Activity Center in Victoria. It is at 380 Cook Street. And we typically put a sign out on Sunday morning so that you can find your way in, because it does have a wellness center within it as well. So we'd love to welcome you there. We have a meditation service at 10:30, and then our regular service is at 11 o'clock in the morning. And we always stay afterward and have tea and coffee and goodies and enjoy conversation together. We're a warm, welcoming place, and we'd love to greet you there. Hope to see you one day. Meanwhile, have a wonderful, blessed week. And just know that you are loved and you are love itself. And so it is. Bye for now.